From Wall Street to Main Street, this is LALATE.
It's a big evening of Evenings LA with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check updated 2021. Well, no vote still yet in the House about the roads and bridges, but your recon passed on a Saturday night, last Saturday night. The $3.5 trillion reconciliation budget bill passed. The president trying to get agreement on other issues, bringing the Democrats to the White House today, and also meeting with them in congressional meetings, both House and Senate Democrats. But for now, cluster number one's checks passed, cluster number two's checks passed, and cluster number three's checks passed. I'll go over all the incredible details. And as we go into a big evening, the exciting great details is that Chuck Schumer's office telling viewers of this channel he is putting a monthly stimulus check provision in there. This comes after nearly 1,000 other viewers have been told the same message by progressives across the board. The progressives go into the weekend with a big win after they blocked the roads and bridges on a Thursday night. And at the time of this recording, there ain't no vote either about the roads and bridges again. In fact, as we go into a big evening, a big surprise, as AOC says, call the vote on the recon right now. What are we talking about, roads and bridges? Oh boy, yes, that and more. We'll be going over the big money on the third stimulus, the big exciting details about this stimulus, but then the dramatics and the fireworks as your recon gets all the push, all the support of both House and Senate Democrats saying it needs to go first, it's more important, and the roads and bridges, not so much. I have all the incredible developing details, brand new, totally new tonight, different than Afternoons LA 2 hours ago. It's happening minutes ago. I have all those and more as we go into a big, bold evening of Evenings LA. I hope you're having a beautiful evening across the board. It is beautiful weather here in Santa Monica, but stay with me all weekend long because the House Democratic members and Senate Democratic members are told to stay in town and to work on your recon over the finish line this weekend. Oh boy, it's heating up. In this recording, we'll go over what happened on Friday morning, what happened since Afternoons LA, which was 2 hours before the show. New developing details. Will there be a vote on the roads and bridges tonight? And what did the president try to do? What did he try to do yesterday? I have all the dramatics. Meantime, your $3.5 trillion recon passing in a House sub-budget committee. Cluster number one checks in there, hazard pay, individuals, seniors, and children. Then cluster number two passing, including paid sick leave. Cluster number three passing. And then Chuck Schumer's office, Senator Bernie Sanders' office, AOC, Jalopal, and Omar, all telling viewers this channel this week, as they have told viewers over the last 3 weeks, they're putting an IRS monthly stimulus check in there as well. Wow, I have all those incredible details. I'll tell you, this weekend is going to be fireworks like that Capitol Hill video because they are staying in town and going potentially back into voting this weekend. Oh boy, it's going to be a big one. You do not want to tune away because you will miss it by the hour and the hour. Meantime, if anything happens after this recording, I will go live on air, and I'm also in the live chat right now to give you any updates that may have happened after this recording occurred. So with that, subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. No one's doing anything like this. Last Saturday, when the recon passed, a House budget subcommittee, broadcast media didn't cover it, nor did print media, nor did other YouTube channels. No one even said it even occurred. Throughout this week, I've been giving you updates on the 20-minute mark, literally, as changing, developing details among the moderate Democrats who want their roads and bridges passed and the progressives who want your recon passed have been battling left and right. I've been going over all the incredible details, and I will be doing that all weekend long. So subscribe, like the video, and consider becoming a member. We're going to go over first each of the clusters that have been passed. We'll go over what happened briefly today. Then we'll go over the monthly IRS stimulus check, the new developing details about that. And then we'll be going back over the full gamut of those IRS monthly stimulus checks and the full details of what's happening late tonight about the potential vote or non-vote on the roads and bridges. And they'll be cutting the third stimulus a little bit later. All right, let's get to the great details. As a $3.5 trillion reconciliation budget package passed the House subcommittee last Saturday. Cluster number one, cluster number two, and cluster number three's checks detailed on this channel all passed. Cluster number 1, 2, and 3 show us that the recon has nothing to do with the COVID situation. It's life in general going forward. You don't have to be COVID-ish to be qualified for these items. All right, cluster number 1. Let's turn to that first. Passed. Hazard pay, checks for seniors, checks for children, $51,000 a monthly stimulus checks, checks for education, and then checks for cars, trucks, and also the home. Let's start with the hazard pay. Got in there, lifetime. This is huge. Hazard pay will be paid out lifetime for every year that you're eligible as an essential worker. They broadened the eligibility and they expanded the amount of money. This is a big win for this channel, as this channel was the only source on the planet that was advocating for hazard pay every hour, every day, for nearly 300 videos in fall 2020 to early 2021. Number 2, up to $4,000 a year to care for an elderly person at home. On the other side, up to $4,000 a year to care for a young child. They have money in there to repair the home if you're in a low-income community. Totally free money. Then, money for students in college. Grants to them, grants to the university, and the Pell's grant made tax-free. How about $51,000 of monthly stimulus checks, MSC? They got it in there. The CTC credit got in there with a modification by making it lifetime and also by broadening the eligibility. So parents who are non-biological qualify for the money. How much is it? Up to $51,000. $300 every year, up to every month of every year, up to 18 years approximately. If that household remains a low-income household. There you go. And then money for cars, trucks, and bikes. All electric, all U.S. auto manufacturer. 15% for the purchase price of a new electric bike. $7,500 for the purchase of a new electric car for personal use, a little more for business use, and then a truck for business use as well. Wow. In a second, we're going to go to cluster number 2 and 3, and then also the IRS monthly stimulus check cluster. But first, let's turn over to a preview later of this video. $13 billion is going out to your cities, counties, and states for rent under third stimulus. Yes, that last remaining $13 billion is going out. Treasury's excited, and they said in a statement about a week ago that Treasury's excited to send this money to state and local governments for rental assistance. I'm going to show you how you can get upwards of $150,000 from third stimulus. That's already law for this channel. It's coming up later in this video. But now let's turn back to the second cluster. They got it in there. Pass. First item in the second cluster is paid leave. Paid family leave, you have to stay at home because your wife is pregnant, or paid medical leave, you have to stay at home from work because your son broke his leg. How much does it pay? A lot. $1,700 if you make $70,000 more per year. Under third stimulus, let's split in half. Let's say you make $35,000 a year. That would be $800 a week. Let's split in half again. $15,000 annual salary, up to $400 a week. They got a lot of checks in this second cluster, and here are some of the other checks. Childcare programs checks, household tax credit checks, then checks for seniors like dental, vision, hearing. More about that in the third cluster. And then checks to weatherize your home. Definitely needed to weatherize your home, especially if there's a storm of moderate Democrats on the roof. You know, the moderate Democrats always trying to get in the house and not able to do it. You want to keep the moderate Democrats out of the house. Yeah, which house am I referring to? Then they got cheaper medicine. They got pre-kindergarten free, and then tuition-free community college. I love it. I love it. No one will ever be able to say, I don't understand you, LA. Nah, because now you can take the class, What the World is LA Saying 101. You can now be bilingual in Los Angeles, the foreign language. In the second, we're going to go for the third cluster. But where is Congress? Congress was meeting with the president today. Yes. The president summoned House Democrats and moderate Democrats to meet with him today separately. Kristen Sinema is remotely going to communicate with the president tonight. We learned moments ago she's back in Arizona for a medical procedure. So the interesting twist of this is that the president is seeing that the roads and bridges not going for a vote and not getting passed. What happened? Well, about a month ago, Nancy Pelosi had a problem, and the problem was the moderate Democrats in the House, the goth gang, that said they had to have the roads and bridges go to a vote. So she made the deal to have the roads and bridges go to a vote yesterday. By the middle of the day, we weren't certain whether the vote was going to happen. The head of the Goth gang, Representative Gothenheimer, said 100,000%, the roads and bridges would pass on Thursday. It didn't pass. It didn't even go for a vote. Nancy Pelosi had two choices: call for a vote and have it fail because the progressives are going to vote it down, or not call for a vote. She opted for not calling for a vote. I'll go over more about the dramatics from last night later in this video. But I'll also go over the dramatics that's happening with the president and the meetings today. What is he trying to do? And will there be a vote on the roads and bridges at the time of this recording, after this recording, or this weekend? That's coming up later in this video. But one of the great comments that came out midday today was from AOC. She said, we're not passing the roads and bridges, and you can make it this easier. Just pass the recon right now. Call the vote for the recon right now. Yeah, AOC said that minutes ago, and no one disagreed with her. Wow, we'll cut more back to that in a second. But let's go to the third cluster checks, and they got them in there. These are the president's checks, and I love them. Free school meals for all checks. Cheaper prescription medication checks, checks for elections, checks for farming, checks for free internet, checks for clean energy, checks for workers like independent contractors, checks for Medicare like lowering eligibility for Medicare, checks for dental, checks for vision, and checks for hearing care. Two of the checks in the second cluster are deliciousness. Why? Because they're nearly automatic benefits to your wallet. The first one, cheaper prescription medication. How would this work? Let's say you have a really bad headache from hearing from the moderate Democrats. Say you go to the pharmacy, say, I need a prescription for those moderate Democrats. Yes, take two $20 bills out of your wallet and pay for it. Then this becomes law. Suddenly they slice the price in half. Maybe removing some of those moderate Democrats from the Congress. But they slice the price in half. So suddenly when you go to refill that prescription for headaches from moderate Democrats, you may only have to pay for half of the money. Then they're going to give free money to the cities, counties, and states. That's huge for free internet. So you'll be able to get free internet wherever you are. You'll just call up and ask what's the Wi-Fi and password. Username is Goth Gang Go Away. And password is Jollapal. Get 'em. There we go. Later in this video, we'll go over all the dramatics that happened last night, the dramatics that happened since afternoon's LALATE minutes ago, about 2 hours before this broadcast, and what's anticipated for later tonight. And guess what? They are doing stuff all weekend long, so you cannot leave me this weekend. There is literally going to be fireworks all weekend long because they are working on this all weekend long. Every House, every Senate member across the board. But let's cut to those monthly IRS stimulus checks. The great news is that this week, from Monday to Friday, Democratic members that have told this channel before they were inserting an IRS stimulus check have said it again. What's important to understand is that last Saturday, when they passed a $3.5 trillion recon with cluster 1, 2, and 3 in there, Nancy Pelosi very clearly said this is not a bill. You can add stuff in there. We're not done. The president's saying that message as well. In fact, both of them said that message throughout the week. I sort of consider it like a bill envelope. It's sort of like a bill envelope. You want to add stuff in there? You can. And that's what Pelosi actually told viewers of this channel no less than a week ago. She would add monthly stimulus checks in there. This is good news because of the 1,000 viewers who have been speaking to members of Congress and their staff about the inclusion of a monthly stimulus check, they've always used future tense verbs. Will be adding, is going to be adding. That is consistent also with Ron Wyden. He's the Democrat. He's on the Senate side, and he wants to add in a provision to pay out some more unemployment benefits. Wow. This week, Bernie Sanders' staff told one viewer the inclusion is still happening. AOC Jollapal saying the same thing. And then within less than 24 hours ago, Donnie's wife, yeah, you met Donnie in this channel. You're going to meet him again in just a few minutes. His wife picked up the phone and called Chuck Schumer. And Schumer's office again confirmed the inclusion of a monthly IRS stimulus check. Of all these incredible details and more, and the dramatics of what happened overnight later today, and since afternoon's LA, and what's expected to happen tonight, and I will get that to you as we go through the community page. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And the excitement continues right now from Santa Monica, California, as evenings LALATE heats up. And guess what's also heating up? The meetings with the President of the United States. The President having meetings all throughout the day with Democratic House and Senate members to determine how to get this over the finish line. Of all the incredible details of those meetings last night, the meetings today, and the meetings anticipated to happen later tonight. Will there be a vote on the roads and bridges, or will there not be? I'll have the latest details. And as we go into a big, bold, beautiful evening of Evenings LA direct from Santa Monica right now, I'll go over what you should anticipate for the weekend, a little bit more about that monthly stimulus check, and the big details about third and fifth stimulus. And with that, boy, what a week it's been. So subscribe. I don't want you to miss a single video across the board. You need to subscribe. Last night I cut into Overnight's Crypto to deliver breaking news as the voting was unraveling for the roads and bridges. I may do it again tonight. This is why you want to subscribe. I'm cutting into anything and everything so you have the updated information on the hour by the hour. Also, like the video and consider becoming a member. Let's go over all the incredible dramatics that heated up last night, and we'll start with Liz Warren. Going into last night's vote, Liz Warren and Bernie Sanders, both senators on the other side of Congress, senators and progressives, telling the progressives in the House, vote down the roads and bridges. Going into the night, on a Thursday night, we were told and believed that the roads and bridges infrastructure bipartisan would go for a vote. Gothenheimer said they would 100,000% pass the roads and bridges last night. Not only did it pass, it didn't go for a vote. What happened? By 9 o'clock, Jalopal, who's the chair of the Democratic Progressive Caucus in the Congress, held an additional last-minute meeting to ensure that all her progressives would be voting down, negative, against the roads and bridges. They confirmed it. In fact, they were more aligned to vote it down than even before to protect your recon. Why? There was a series of 3 events that really occurred this week that I was surprised by it, and it was absolute perfect ammunition to protect your recon. Number 1, the moderate Democrats were angering everyone by not keeping promises on very basic things. They didn't keep a promise on the debt ceiling limit, said Nancy Pelosi, a promise made 2 weeks ago. They did make a promise about calling the vote on the roads and bridges and then bipartisan at the same time. Liz Warren slammed them for that as well. So they didn't look like a bunch of trustworthy people. Number 2, the progressives were continually name-called by the moderates in the last 48 hours, saying there's very few of them, that they don't do this, they don't do that. Well, Nancy Pelosi has only a 3 Democratic margin of victory in the House. She can't lose 3 Democrats on any vote of any body of legislation. The progressives, as of Wednesday, said we had 60 progressives to vote down the roads and bridges. Yes, 60. But by Thursday, it looked like it'd be over 100 because the moderates kept on saying a lot of really negative things about the progressives. By 9 o'clock, Nancy Pelosi did not call the vote on the roads and bridges. Okay, so then what did happen? A strange series of events. As Brian D.C., you've seen him on this channel. I even think I just saw his graphic. Ann's going to kill me, but I'm going to show you him. Brian D.C. was spotted going into the chambers of the vice president and also 2 other cabinet members from the president's staff. Seen going into the chambers. Oh, there he is. Sorry, Ann. Here, that guy. Yeah, seen going into those chambers And then no one understood why they were there. Then suddenly DC and the other two cabinet members going into Chuck Schumer offices in the Senate, and Bernie Sanders and Kristen Sinema showing up. Bernie Sanders, of course, the guy who got a $3.5 trillion recon passed procedurally in the House, in the Senate for you. He got that price tag. He asked for $7 trillion. And Kristen Sinema, the moderate Democrat. So the meeting was held, and within just 10 seconds, it was over. Out comes Bernie Sanders. He calls the meeting an absurd idea to have such a meeting, and he says, this is not the way I do business. Who called the meeting? Ironically, the president did, but Sanders was smart in not slamming the president personally. He slammed the whole attempt to have a meeting. What was the meeting to be had for? To somehow get Sanders to tell the progressives, vote yes for the roads and bridges if I give you an informal agreement from the moderates about what they're going to do with your recon. Maybe, and then just do this and promise you do it right now. Really not. Doesn't make sense, especially after moderate Democrats had kept the promise all week long. Then, minutes thereafter, Jalopal held a press conference, and she told her progressives, do not change your position and do not fall for moderate Democrats promising to do something unless it's actually passed as a law. She said, we've been promised too many things, and unless it's an actual bill that is voted on, we're not going to agree to a framework, which is basically like a piece of paper that's less than 12 sentences on the paper. She said, we're not going to do that. Absolutely true. And that was consistent with what Bernie said. By 10 o'clock, we were told that the vote was going to happen. And then out of nowhere came that letter from Nancy Pelosi saying, thank you for your time tonight. Excuse me? Yeah, thank you. Come back tomorrow, and don't forget to enjoy a breath mint on the way out. I'm not particularly clear what that letter meant, and broadcast media said, she's telling us we can go home. And then she came back and said, no, you can't go home. Excuse me? Then Steny Hoyer, who's the guy who tells you can go home, he's the majority leader of the House, came out and said, yeah, you can go home, and we'll resume voting at 9 a.m. Friday. Well, it didn't resume voting. In fact, it did. And what happened after that? Chuck Schumer said, I'm going to put the Senate back in session Friday to immediately quickly pass an extension of the surface ground transportation funding. Now, this is a big one, and no one's really picking up on this except me. This was what the moderate Democrats had said why the roads and bridges had to be passed on Thursday, because this surface transportation funding was ending on Thursday. Jalopal said it was hogwash, that you can just simply have a Senate meeting and reappropriate more money to be refunded. And she was right. Chuck Schumer called that last night, Thursday night, saying, come back in, we're going to reappropriate the money. So obviously the roads and bridges deadline was a faux deadline. And even crazier was that on Friday, they really never even came back into session, the Senate, to have that reappropriation of the funds for the roads, for the transportation. I guess it wasn't that important, that deadline. By the middle of the day, Friday, the president had seemed to realize he wasn't getting anywhere. So he called Democratic senators and Democratic House members to come in and have a meeting with him. And Democrats actually got really angry because while the meeting was held in a secure environment that's closed off to the outside world, there was one member of Congress literally sending via text message on their phone to a press reporter, verbatim dictation of what was being said in the meeting. Guess what? The Democrats slammed the Democrats for leaking. As the reporter said, politicians always leak. Democrats leak, Republicans leak. But this is sort of funny, where Democrats were leaking against other Democrats. What was going on in the meeting? Now, what is the president attempting to do, and why does it not make sense? What the president's trying to do is have the progressives agree to certain things, and these things are not agreeable to. Number one, he's trying to have progressives agree to a verbal commitment from the moderates about whatever. Progressives, as I said, we're not voting in favor of roads and bridges based upon a verbal agreement from the moderates, because the moderates haven't kept promises all week long, all summer long. Number two, the president is trying to potentially move certain items move potentially the number on the recon, as one report says. I don't believe that's the case. And in the other situation, try to somehow put the roads and bridges over the finish line and then deal with the recon after that. The common message among the progressives has been exactly your message. The recon should go vote first, not the roads and bridges. The recon always should have voted first, not the roads and bridges. The agreement was for the recon to vote first, not the roads and bridges. And is worse, the recon and the roads and bridges to be voted at the same time. What the moderates have been able to do is first try to separate the recon from the roads and bridges, try to have make it sound like they're going at the same time, and then try to have the roads and bridges go immediately, and then sort of say, you know what, I don't know about the recon. Anyone who's smart at the situation understands that the issue is not so much the substance of the recon. It's that the maneuverings of getting things to the vote one before the other is the only level of trustworthiness between the progressives and the moderates that are very, very tense at the moment. So what's next? Tonight, there is always the potential that they can go back into session, the House, by order of Steny Hoyer. You're going to follow him on Twitter if he says something like that, and then call the vote on the roads and bridges. My prediction is the following: that Nancy Pelosi will do the same thing tonight that she did last night and that she's done over the last year of this channel. Nancy Pelosi has consistently always said, we are aligned. She never wants the House Democrats to look maligned. She never wants to make it look like that they're feuding when they may in fact are. So I don't think she'll ever call the vote on the roads and bridges if the progressives hold their position, which they are at the moment, of voting it down, which means that the negotiations will continue Saturday and continue Sunday, and we'll have a lot more about that next. But now it's time to go into that monthly IRS stimulus check and those incredible great news right now. The great news is that, of course, the monthly IRS stimulus check goes in the recon, not the roads and bridges. And the people who want to put it in the recon are the same people that are fighting to protect your recon. AOC, Omar, Jolipal, Pelosi, Schumer, Sanders, Warren, Casey, Coons, all these people are protecting the recon. And all these people have told the viewers of this channel, 1,000 of them plus, that they're inserting a monthly stimulus check when viewers advocated for it. Over 8 weeks ago, I told viewers to pick up the phone and advocate for the inclusion of a monthly stimulus check, and they did. WR picked up the phone, called Senator Chris Coons, Democrat, Delaware, Joe Biden's old confidant, to advocate for the inclusion of a monthly stimulus check. And Coons' office said, yes, I'm putting it in there. That's what advocacy does. Then, about 3 weeks ago, this channel started to really pick up in everything. I think you noticed the change. And at that time, I started delivering a lot of exclusives. I started delivering a lot of breaking news. The morning show would be different than the noon show, to be different than the afternoon show, because the news cycle was getting very, very quick and ever-changing. At the time, I delivered one exclusive, that I believe that the recon would be written by the House. It was. That the recon will go first for a vote on the House side, not the Senate side. It was. And that Bernie Sanders is critical of the equation. We now know that Bernie Sanders, of course, was the guy who got the $3.5 trillion price tag. He had negotiated for it and got that recon procedural passed in the Senate among all senators at 3.5 after he asked for $7 trillion. 3 weeks ago, he said a critical quote. He said, unlike prior budget chairmen of the Senate, I like to get out amongst the people when I'm working on a recon. I said, if you listen to those key words, he wants to hear from you. Pick up the phone and advocate. And that's what Brother Joshua did, Lynn Glenn and Margaret did at the time. And what does advocacy look like? What does advocating for stimulus look like? Let's go into some incredible screen grabs that viewers have posted in the last few days. And these screen grabs from either the live chat of the show or social media private messages shows you what advocacy looks like. Honestly, I and the woman on the phone started crying when I started explaining everything I've been through. Then another viewer writing the following: how do I have 10 surgeries since his passing? How am I supposed to raise two teenage daughters? It's just not enough. SSDI is not enough. And that's what advocacy looks like. And that's what Brother Joshua did. As a 2020 volunteer to the community page, who got thousands of people, thousands of dollars, Purple Hawk and longtime viewer, he advocated, picked up the phone, called Senator Sanders, like Margaret and Lynn Glenn. And Sanders' office saying, yes, he'll be doing inclusion of a stimulus check, $1,000 to $1,300, 4 to 6 months, but needs to hear your advocacy. This week, Sanders' office reconfirmed the inclusion of that provision. Now, let's turn to what the advocacy looked like from this channel after that incredible message from Sanders. The advocacy started with, ironically, yes, Donnie. You met his wife early in this video. Donnie writes the following about his conversation. I called Bernie Sanders' office and his secretary said, they are doing a forced stimulus check. This is what I need. My city needs it. I need to progress and everything I got. She said they're doing a forced stimulus check. Messages started coming on in. Hurricane Tina wrote, I called Bernie Sanders' office and I got through. They said they are putting in a forced stimulus check. Comments continued across the board. Like Caroline. I called Bernie Sanders' office, talked to his secretary, told we need help. People are losing their homes. And she said Bernie is putting it in there. Lori advocating. And Purple Power Yaya advocating. Spoke to another Wyden officer, staffer, who said they're going to put SS-200 in there. And then Will showed us that advocacy shouldn't be with one office, it should be with three. He called Bernie, Schumer, and Liz Warren all on the same day, and all three of their secretaries confirmed inclusion of a stimulus check. As to Liz Warren's office, they asked him what type of check he likes. He's liked the American Petition, $2,000 a month. And they said Liz Warren will be proposing $1,400 to $2,000, 6 to 12 months. Lorica writing that Bob Casey's office, she got on the phone, and that Bob Casey says they're currently in negotiations now for the amount of the stimulus check. And at that point, we had countless, nearly 1,000 viewers getting the same confirmation of the inclusion of a monthly stimulus check IRS from senators. Coons, Sanders, Warren, Schumer, Casey, Wyden. But I said, pick up the phone and call over to those House Democrats because we need to do the same. AOC, Jalapal, Omar, need to hear from you. And that's what Paul did. He picked up the phone and called, and then he wrote the following. Paul writes, AOC staffer assured me that it would be in the stimulus check, in the bill. Then Janice writing, Jalapal also did say a forced stimulus check is going in there. Jalapal got the same message from Omar. Mark, $51,000 Mark, picking up the phone and calling at Nancy Pelosi's office. Staffer told me there would be $4,000. There would be in the fourth, $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter. And Lorraine getting the message as well. The messages still kept on coming on in. I called Rep. Omar's office, writes Paul. Omar wants to put in $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter for 6 months. Ida writes, got off the phone with Omar. They're putting in there $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter. Lynn, I called Jalapal's office and spoke to them, and they said they're putting in monthly stimulus checks. The messaging continued across the board, and the messaging was very beneficial to us. Why? Because the messaging is consistent with what Pelosi and the president had said, which is, if you want to add stuff, tell me and I'll add the stuff. In fact, Pelosi's office is one of the ones that said she will be adding it. 2 places to add it. You can add it on the House side, you can add it on the Senate side. House side, you add it when you're writing up changes to the $3.5 trillion recon passed last Saturday. Other way you can make changes is a 2-day vote-a-rama on the Senate side. There you go. Now, let's go over the magnitude of the situation. Over 1,000 viewers have been told the same message after advocating. And those Democratic senators and House Democratic members have continued to repeat the same message this week. But these are progressives. These are the people who are protecting your recon. These are progressive House members. These are progressive senators. They're not moderate Democrats. You notice that really there is no major moderate Democrat coming out and saying, this is this great stuff I like about the recon. That's been sort of the reoccurring message about the recon this week. But going into the weekend, the president's trying to find a common ground. What is that common ground? And what's my prediction for the weekend? I have all those coming up in a second. But let's turn to a second for third stimulus, because third stimulus, boy, is paying out big sums of money still. $13 billion landing in cities, counties, and states about a week ago. And this is for rent, utilities, mortgage assistance, and more. I want you to get this big sum of money, so get that pen and paper and cell phone ready. We're going to get some rent that's gone up 200% for viewers of this channel. Utilities that viewers are now getting 300% more. And SNAP that viewers are now getting 400% more than they were a month ago. When we look at the money for utilities and the monies for rent, we got to remember $51,000 Mark and his success stories with his friends, neighbors, and family members. For rent, it was $20,000 to $30,000 just about a month ago. There's Mark in the list. Now the numbers have gone to $40,000 like Jen for rent. Then we have utilities. You see Mark there, $7,000. Now Mark's brother-in-law getting $15,000. What a growth, 300%. And then the SNAP going up 400% from where it was there to $21,000. Get that pen paper ready because I'm going to go over all the details for you right now. We're going to go over 6 places to reach out to. Reached out, all 6. They have different pots of money and different eligibility. Number 2, I'm going to show you something about Treasury. Listen to the keywords I say in this video, and then get ready for the nonprofits. It's all coming up. All right, here are the 6 places to reach out to. Your city hall, your city house authority. Your county hall, your county house authority. Your state hall, and your state house authority. And the keywords you're going to say are rent assistance because of COVID. Mortgage utility assistance because of COVID. Let's go over the 6 places again. City hall, city house authority. County hall, county house authority. State hall, and state house authority. Now, I want you to read that Treasury letter that is in the newsletter that comes out to members every night. Read that letter from Treasury that describes the $13 billion so you know what it is. So when you call up, you know what to ask for. Is there a waiting list? There is not. Can I call you tomorrow? Because every city, every state, red, blue, has that money. Next, utilities. If you have 5 utility companies, reach out to all 5. Reach out to all of them. Finally, the nonprofits. Wow. The nonprofits have been a big success in the last 7 days. I had 600 videos in fall 2020 to early 2021 called Purple that went over the big money you can get for the nonprofits, and now they're back paying big sums of money again. What are the nonprofits? Here are the 5. United Way, Salvation Army, Catholic Charities, St. Vincent de Paul, and Community Action. What's important to understand about the nonprofits is they pay the same items that are in third stimulus, but with different eligibility, and then they pay for extra items like rent, like clothing, homeless people in the shelters, and sometimes appliances. 2 viewers have gotten refrigerators, and last week, another viewer got a furnace and also her window fixed. Finally, it's important to understand that the nonprofits help make it very simple to understand that there's money everywhere. If you're one of those people that wants to post in the chat, there's no money in my state, it's absolutely untrue. It's untrue because every state has this cash infusion for Treasury. But even more untrue is because the nonprofits help people in every state across the country and that are eligible. And there we go. Let's cut over back to what is anticipated for tonight, what's anticipated for the weekend, and what do I think is going to happen. Anticipated for tonight is the looking and waiting to see whether Steny Hoyer announces the House is back in session, come on in, and we're going to be voting on the roads and bridges. We will see if that happens. Strangely enough, the Senate did not do that ratification of appropriations for that money called surface ground transportation to fund the roads and bridges. So he didn't think it was so urgent to get it done after they used it as a sort of a scapegoat for a fake deadline. What do I believe this situation is going to happen? What I believe is that the moderate Democrats this week really burned their bridges badly, and they didn't have to go so deep and sort of aggressively as they did by basically trash talking the progressives. The progressives keeping professional, keeping respectful, not using that level. But now the progressives, I don't believe, trust the moderate Democrats because they don't keep their promises. Number 2, I don't think the moderates trust the whole voting process at this point unless their recon goes first. And number 3, I think that the progressives really understand that the Americans are behind them. When you go back to if you go back to a district that you're a congressman for, and you're saying, I have no money for you, but I can fix that pothole underneath your foot, that doesn't really resonate well. And they have been repeating that messaging very loud and clear. The only thing that has caused me some confusion, I guess is the right word, is what the president's doing. The president has not approached the situation correctly in the last 24 hours. Number 1, he made a very bad misstep in trying to have Kristen Sinema, Bernie Sanders, go into a meeting right before a vote is to happen on the roads and bridges, and to somehow convince Bernie to call off House members, when he's a senator, to vote against roads and bridges, to tell them to vote in favor of it. It just sounds really strange. It doesn't make sense. And while we never will know what the purpose of the meeting was, that's the optics of it. A vote was about to happen on the roads and bridges. The progressives were about to vote it down. The guy who's telling them to vote it down, Bernie Sanders, who got the recon price tag, is called into a meeting to talk about the events that are about to unfold in 30 minutes, and comes out of the meeting saying this was an absurd idea to have this type of meeting. I don't do business this way. It just sort of blew up. It didn't look good for the president. Also not looking really good for the president today was this, bringing people back into a series of meetings, House and Senate Democrats. You have to understand that the recon, $3.5 trillion, was agreed upon by Bernie Sanders and became law under the recon procedural several weeks ago, not just a few days ago. And certainly the progressives and you, and of course AOC in the last hour said, you know what? Call the vote on the recon. Call the vote on the recon in the House and pass the recon. It makes sense to show things moving on both fronts. And the president's message always was, I need to have both bodies of legislation on my table. Then call the vote on both of them at the same time, or at least show that both are progressing at the same speed. It did not look like the recon was progressing at the same speed as the roads and bridges going into Wednesday. With the progressives stopping the roads and bridges in its tracks Thursday night, it now put the roads and bridges and the recon at equal speed element. The president needs to understand that the recon needs to be robust and it needs to be done right. Meantime, the president's under fire from guess who? The Republicans. Mitt Romney late tonight said, you know what, I agreed to this roads and bridges. Why haven't you called it for a vote? Yeah, that's going to start to ramp up because when you make a deal, but you don't get the whole thing done right, then things progress. I'm very, very excited for a series of things for you. I would have never really thought going into this weekend that we would be in such a great position. Number one, I'm really excited that the protection of your recon is so overwhelming that we've never seen anything quite like this. We have now the majority of the House protecting your recon. We have the majority of the Senate protecting your recon. We have public discourse at this point all saying the recon is wonderful, you need to protect it. And then you have the people who are not particularly protecting the recon. They're not against it, but they're not protecting the recon. The moderate Democrats really sort of hitting themselves in the foot over and over again and not looking good as the optics of the situation for them continue to unravel. Pelosi, end of the week, doing what she had to do. Her job is to run a House. She should never have agreed to that agreement with Gothenheimer to call the vote on Thursday a month ago. She should not have done that, but she ironically didn't keep her promise either. She didn't call the vote as of Thursday. She ended discussion and debate on the roads and bridges, but she never called it to a vote. Her ultimate goal is always to make sure the optics are that the House Democrats are aligned. Finally, the president, his last message yesterday was, give me what I want. If you don't give me what I want, then I'll give you a Republican president because that's what you're going to get. Very fascinating imagery. And I think he needs to lean more on that imagery. Meantime, will there be a vote tonight? Don't know yet. Don't know. And so I will be in the live chat when this show airs. I'll also cut into any feed of Overnight's Crypto as it's airing if there's any major breakthroughs. But 100% confirmed by the White House, 100% confirmed by Steny Hoyer and the House members. Everyone is in town working on negotiations of your recon and the roads and bridges this weekend. So it's going to be a jam-packed weekend with a lot of breaking development details. I want you to stay with me. Remember, last Saturday night was when they passed the recon. Yeah, it's the weekends when these people seem to get a lot of things done very quickly. It must be the ice cream. And with that, subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. I want you part of this incredible family. Hit that subscribe button right now. Like the video, 3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. This video will automatically take you to Overnight's Crypto, which is a new show tonight. And that's the show that I'll cut into if any major breaking developments details occur tonight. Stay informed, stay focused. Make sure you subscribe, like the video, and consider becoming a member. The member link is under the video so that you can get that newsletter every night coming out in about 2 hours after this video. Stay informed, stay focused, and stay with LA.